Welcome to the TechArena, featuring authentic discussions between tech's leading innovators and our host, Allyson Klein. Now, let's step into the arena.
Welcome to the TechArena. My name's Allyson Klein. We're coming to you from the Mobile World Congress event in Barcelona, and I am so delighted to be joined by Frank Miller, CTO of Varnish. Welcome to the program, Frank.
Oh, hello. Glad to chat with everybody.
So Varnish has been on the show before, but for those who may have missed episode 1 of the Varnish series, can you just introduce the company and your role?
Yeah, so Varnish has been in the content delivery software game since 2005 with open source. And you kind of head into 2010s, we decided to kind of follow the Red Hat route and become enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
So we do support right now some of the largest content delivery folks in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And we have many value props, right? But I think the main one, once again, is just the robustness of the platform. We're just phenomenally efficient,
Mm-hmm.
right? So from a cost perspective, we have a significant advantage with the other folks in the current arena, like
Mm-hmm.
your Akamai's,
Yeah.
honestly, from a cost basis, but we're phenomenally open. So from a Lego block perspective, it really is easy to build on unique intellectual property for a lot of the enterprises. But my role as a CTO, I've been a CTO for goodness gracious, maybe nearly 20 years across various industries.
Now, the content delivery space has obviously gone through a tremendous amount of transformation during the pandemic when everybody was sitting in their homes waiting for content to be delivered.
Yeah.
I don't think that content delivery was ever as exciting before that as it was when we actually realized the criticality of the use case.
Mm.
Tell me how that influenced technology development during the time, and where are we today with tech?
It's really interesting because technology has always done two things. Number one, it's tried to reduce the cost basis.
Mm-hmm.
And then also it's trying to do top line, right? To create new opportunities to generate revenue. Over 20 years, I've watched technology go from single user box things, right? Because I built mobile networks,
Mm-hmm. Right.
all the way to everything just abstracted compute that you can do many things, from broadband all the way to deliver different software as a services from the same invested platform. So you have one thing that has many sources of revenue generation. That's where content delivery has gone. Content delivery started in boxes,
Right.
and now it's just another workload that you run either in the cloud or your own bare metal that might be
Mhm.
supporting many things, right? So that's the biggest change in industry. There's always a competitiveness and pressure. What I found, though, that's interesting, and this is more personal. So I used to be an embedded system engineer at
Mhm.
Tektronix for 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
We used to developing and leading, running phenomenally efficient code bases. And I've actually built 2 public clouds and always was challenged with the mindset of public cloud engineers are just unlimited.
Right.
Well, guess what? It's a new age,
Mhm.
right? We don't have unlimited
Mhm.
stuff, and there's an opportunity to optimize. And that's, I think, we'll discuss more of that during the interview.
Okay.
And you had some of the value prop last year.
Right.
This focus.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, when I look at the solutions that you offer, I read about web app performance acceleration, content delivery, telco edge solution delivery, reverse proxy, and HTTP acceleration caching. Make
Yeah.
sense of this to me in
Sure.
terms of the end-to-end solutions that you're delivering and the customers that you're serving.
It's all about, think of us like Lego blocks that deal with doing, we even can do a forward proxy, forward reverse proxy for anything HTTP.
Mhm.
Luckily, content, of course, over the top is delivered via HTTP protocol. So we can deliver streaming content, on-demand content, software downloads,
Mhm.
right? But what's interesting is, we've also can accelerate API. So APIs like you have on your application, everything underneath is still going through HTTP through a web server. There's different web-based API protocols,
Mhm.
and still as an origin server serving up those requests as API
Right.
requests. So we help that too. So anything HTTP, we can help. The last one is you'll see that we've released some stuff tied to Artifactory,
Mhm.
right? That's also HTTP based. So we can help with JFrog, for instance, on servers. We can help on API gateways to take the workload off. If it's HTTP, we can help.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Now, I know that you guys like to talk about performance. Every time I talk to you, you're setting some sort of performance record. And you're also looking at performance efficiency.
Yes.
Tell me where we are today with performance. What drives it and how do you improve it?
Yeah, so from a performance basis, at least last year, that was low hanging fruit. We worked with our partners at Intel Labs and really looked at how to get the most out of the CPU, how to get the most out of memory, the most out of disk. At the end of the day, if you look at a perfect system, you shouldn't see any locks or blocks anywhere. It should just be water flowing down a pipe for content being delivered to the network interface.
That's a beautiful analogy.
Oh,
Unfortunately,
yeah.
I don't think reality works
I
like
tried
that all
to
the
keep it to a
time.
water hose and other piping systems, but yeah. So that's really what we did, and we're fascinated. How much could we get by just applying good software engineering? Kernel to operating system and hardware knowledge, which is almost like a lost art these days.
Right.
It's really hard to find people who know this very well. Luckily, we have a crew in Oslo and Stockholm with absolute wizards. So some of the original wizards at Varnish from the early days are still here. But what we discovered is that first last year, we were able to use about 1/5 or 1/6 of the power.
Wow.
And it depends on the workload. That's amazing. I would have been happy with, a half, double increase. We were astounded. That's number one there. But what's more important this year, so we set the record in a single system for how many bits you could put out, which was 1.2 to 1.3 terabits. We've gone a little bit above that, 1.4. We keep on playing with things. But what was more ambitious was looking at the power. So if you go to 2022, we had the record at about maybe 386 megabits per watt. We sat there in the room and said, let's hit the top line mark, but let's do a moonshot. Let's see if we can do above a gigabit per watt.
Wow.
And see what happens. And we hit that. We hit 1.18 gigabits per watt. Keep in mind, these are not science fiction systems. These are systems you buy off the shelf, no super hardware accelerators.
Right.
This is just good software engineering practices. So we did that, but then we saw, what's the value of this? How much money can you save? So over the last year, and it'll be published, I should be published by next week. We did a study, literally, what does this mean on watts? So we took legacy systems and the 100 gigabits per second. We looked at a 1 terabit workload over 5 years. And with those variants, how many, from a megawatt hour perspective, how many megawatt hours you see? So we looked at this. It was fascinating. If you unfortunately have legacy systems and 10 gig interfaces, you'll save 90% in megawatt hours if you just build a 400 gig system.
That's crazy.
That's nuts. But what if you have a 100 gig system? Most modern bare metal networks you see are 100 gig. You save a little bit above 60%, maybe about 64%. And that's still amazing. On the system we would have bought last year.
60% is crazy.
It is crazy stuff. Then we turned it into dollars. We took the look at the cost, and we got the same results, right? So as we converted it, it's pretty significant. It's literally, I think, the cost, I don't from memory, please don't quote me, it'll be published next week. I think looking at the cost for that 1 terabyte of a 10 gig system came to about 120 some thousand per year in power. If you do it with a 400 gig system, it's about 12,000 per year.
That's
in a power bill. That's significant study we did on purpose because just saying, hey, we got this incredibly fast piece of software. What does it mean? So it's okay. Looks, most major folks like your Paramounts and Disney's or, the Zone have 1 terabit.
Right.
And so if you have brownfield stuff, if we use today's system at 400 gig, it's still not that expensive. How much money you actually spend?
Yeah.
And that's enough to do a good return on investment calculation for anybody. So full analysis should be published within a week.
I can't wait to dig into that because what you're describing, I've always thought about the move to 400 gig as something about performance, but this is really getting to the heart of the economics.
Yeah, it is. And keep in mind, we're being conservative. Actually, on a 1U system, you can do 800 gig. 2U, you can put, 1.6 terabit.
Yeah.
So we said, okay, let's just cut that in half. Do an analysis and see what happens. But those numbers will be out. The other thing we did is, we wanted to say that you just don't have to run the largest system. So we did an analysis of running multiple families all the way down to medium to the smallest family to see if we could stay above the 1 terabit per watt boundary. did stay there. I think it was down to about a 200 gig system. Starts to decline a little bit until you hit like a Xeon date.
Right.
But if you look at the future, so if you go like a CR4 as a Xeon Z, we'll have an embedded 100 gig NIC.
That's fantastic.
Right. So we'll test that too. So we're going to focus over the next 12 months trying to keep that efficiency down to that last bit, those entry-level processors systems.
Mm-hmm. When you talked earlier about moving from just serving content providers to moving into enterprise,
Yeah.
what has that changed in terms of the types of solutions that you're delivering? And do enterprises have any different requirements that are notable?
I think it's tied to availability and customer experience. So what we see there is, high availability, which is one of the reasons we formed Varnish Enterprise. Performance. Keep in mind, these performance metrics are not from Varnish Cache.
Mm-hmm.
In Varnish Enterprise, we actually took a look at the bottlenecks in Varnish Cache, which is in memory management and file system management in Linux, and actually improve that. So, performance matters, high availability matters, and also the ability to have intelligence. So we added a controller reference on top of this that allowed you to easily manage complex global caching configs, federated caching configs easily.
Mm-hmm.
We created this, reference architecture to perform, vertical scaling, horizontal scaling, awareness, easy push out, and integration into any type of engineering, integration and testing pipeline.
Very fantastic. Now it's MWC 24, and I would be totally not a great host of my podcast if I didn't ask you, when you look at this landscape, you look at what your technical teams are doing, how does AI enter into this? And do you see AI helping with automation of this, or, is there any link?
What's interesting is there's two links here. So link number one, you're exactly right, is the operational efficiency, keeping stuff going from root cause and predictive analysis. We're actually working on this. We're looking at the models of how to run Varnish as best as possible because we have all these knobs. So we can watch real time. We're looking at be able to see if there's a problem, what is the problem, and automatically make the change, but also predict this coming. If we see this coming, there's other opportunities in AI in predictive caching. So because the cache changes over the day, right, of what people watch. So if we can observe that, we can, prefetch and put these things out there and actually change the dynamics.
Right.
It could be soap operas, right? It could be, sports, whatever it is, we can figure it out. What I'm really interested in too is security.
Sure.
So it's anomaly detection. I used to be a security wonk too. I did cert advisories in the day, but, 0-day exploits really bother me.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to catch something that there's no signature for and being able to adapt and, take care of this and like raise a flag and say, hey, there's something going on. We're going to dampen this down, come take a look at the logs. We haven't seen this before. The other one that's interesting from a security perspective is, even AI coming at you or, people doing scraping of content. You should be able to stop this too. So there's various AI use cases where we're building now and looking to productize in 2025. So it's a customer experience type operations. Just, we want to protect the customer experience. We don't want churn, but it's also from a security perspective, mainly tied to, things that you just can't put a signature around. You really have to look at anomalous and statistical behavior and other, AI frameworks to make a change. What's interesting is our architecture reference, how we're doing this is different. Most AI platforms go to the mothership.
Sure.
And the mothership makes the decision and kind of this stuff. That's not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
We really feel that AI should also be federated. Models should be light and tight, actually push to the edge.
Right.
To the edge CDN. Create policies that say, hey, when you see these things, you can do this, this, and this. So we'll create a framework where you have AI models and you can have policies for these, whether you want it to do this, whether you want, person in the middle, right? Or whether you just want notifications. We're working on this framework now.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. The AI at the edge keeps coming up in interviews, and both from a standpoint of folks who are looking to accelerate it and folks that are looking at it as something that needs to be developed more quickly in their solutions. So the fact that you're saying this is just another data point of this is a broader trend. Talking about broader trends, we're at MWC, it's day 2. What have you seen from the industry that's interesting across the MWC landscape? And what do you think we're going to be talking about in 24?
It's interesting. I've seen 2 things. I've seen more acceptance of ORAN, which I expected.
Yeah.
ORAN is complicated because you need a testing reference to get, finally all the vendors to come in and agree to get together and certify their end-to-end 5 and 2B 6G system. Hopefully ORAN, I know that's just the RAN side,
right?
But takes the lessons of what didn't work with Mano.
Right.
Because we went through that phase.
Right.
And still, because I built 4G and 5G networks with discrete components, I did it with Mano, but I couldn't get support from the vendors unless I bought their complete box.
The stovepipe solution.
Yeah. And it just costs just as much to find the boxes. So where we're pivoting now to more containerized references, at least ORAN, right, on that side of the network, end-to-end common certification. I'm hoping that changes the cost dynamics, number 1. Number 2, they, met, right? It's now multi-use. And that's another workload. I think a unique use case on the CDN side is if you have extra cores at the edge for Mac that's not doing your baseband, work and stuff like that, run a CDN. An edge CDN right next to the edge packet gateway is perfect.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. You want to talk about cutting down latency, you're right there. That's going to pull tens of milliseconds of latency out of the equation. So I think there is an opportunity to, edge CDNs now, at least where folks have M&O assets, are on the MEC framework as close as possible to the customer, because that'll be better for the customer experience. So I think that's a change too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Frank, I'm really looking forward to seeing this paper. Are you guys talking about anything else at MWC this week that's notable?
I think that's the big one. It's really about the value prop. And I think the other notable thing, I'm going to toot our horn a little bit, is what happened at the Super Bowl, right? So at the Super Bowl, and check out the LinkedIn article, but we really the load to the Super Bowl. There were problems ongoing in the bowl. And our partners at Paramount Plus, we were in the war room with them. We basically, by the end of the Super Bowl, had 75% of the content protect the customer experience. So I think that's a demonstration. And they weren't surprised. We'd already benched this, but we were there to help. And I think at the end of the day, we're just there for customer success, and that's Paramount and their customers.
That's a great example of enterprise resilience right there.
Absolutely.
So for those of you listening online, definitely read that Super Bowl paper. It's a good one. And then I'll be sending out a link to your power efficiency on 400 gig as soon as it's available.
Yep.
Where else can folks go to get information about Varnish solutions?
Oh, if you just go to, varnishsoftware.com. I think we have a pretty good web presence. It actually goes through all the solutions, goes to the history, code examples, very deep examples. And if you really want to go crazy, I don't have the book here. We actually have about an 800-page Varnish internals in our program, because I think that's the other unique thing about Varnish that we don't discuss a lot is we have an engine, all these features you can glue on, but it's also an open language, and it's process language. And our Varnish configuration language, if you write a unique piece of IP that you want to do, it's actually compiled and linked into the runtime. So it's not like this process low language. You're actually building your own software framework. That's why we're so popular with the big folks.
Right.
Because they can create unique IP and it runs at execution time.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Thank you so much for being on the program today. It was so good to get to know you and learn more, a little bit more about what's going on at Varnish.
Thank you, Allyson. Appreciate it. And like I said, I'm available. If anybody has any questions, you can just check out my LinkedIn page and just message me. I'll answer.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining the Tech Arena. Subscribe and engage at our website, thetecharena.net. All content is copyright by the Tech Arena.